Hello and welcome to another episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery podcast. And I'm Jackie Tomes, and today myself and Dom are going to be talking about how to shift your decision making away from being purely from the head and dropping down into the heart, and balancing those two different sides when investing in property, and how that can just really transform the decisions that you're making, the ease with which opens up, and obviously the more enjoyment of the whole process, which we're doing this, we're investing in property because we want to have a nice time and we want to do the right things, and therefore bringing in the heart to that is really important. So sharing my own personal experience along with Dom, what this has really meant and how you can utilise it in your own investing to make the whole process not just more enjoyable but far more effective. Let's do this. Hello Dom.
Hello Jackie, lovely to be here.
I'm excited for today's conversation, which came to me in my meditation this morning, which was how to make decisions with your heart rather than your head. Like, how do you do that? How can you access that? And a discussion around this. I'm definitely not an expert at this, but I'm on the path to trying to figure it out. And I thought it feels like a kind of a relevant thing in quite a
Yes.
few of our lives at the moment. So I thought like a nice discussion.
You're absolutely right. And it's funny how these things come about, because it's almost been the last few weeks where I've been learning about that actually there's so much more wisdom in the body than there is in the mind. And yet we're taught through school and we're taught through upbringing that you have to think through things logically and make the right decision based on X, Y, and Z. And, it's kind of a logical process, which is all about the mind. But the mind actually will justify anything that it wants to justify, and will come up with all sorts of ideas and solutions and random thoughts. And basically, the potential is infinite in the mind, because the mind is creative. It can think of all sorts of things. So actually, when we want a kind of a hard yes no answer, or maybe not hard, but we want the right answer for us, sometimes the mind is not the right place to go for that. An awful lot, particularly as the part of the brain, the amygdala, that the fear center, has a massive amount of control and influence over us. So a lot of people make decisions, whether or not they're aware of it, based on fear. In fact, studies show that of the 30 to 90,000 thoughts a day that we have, about 60 to 70, maybe even 80% of those thoughts are actually negative and kind of holding us back and keeping us safe, rather than actually allowing us to grow and do something different and possibly sort of less safe. But actually that's the best path for us to experience more of life, rather than stay safe and just kind of survive and live an average life. So anyway, sorry,
And
that's
it's so easy to no, and it's so easy to rationalize the fears with the mind. Well, I
mm,
shouldn't do that because of that risk and this risk, and here's all the reasons why I shouldn't do it. And it makes a lot of sense. Like the thing that you're maybe we should got to try and find some examples to bring this to life. But just all the things that you are trying to do, there's so many reasons why you can't do it. But
yes.
if it feels like the right thing to do, which is maybe where we're getting to the heart stuff, then you can still
Yeah.
you should maybe do it. I guess it's also like the things that you're how to like how to be aware of when it's the head in charge. And I wonder, is this where it's more like the things that I need to do, the things that I should do,
Mm.
like those things are actually coming up more, and that's when the mind's in charge more. Does the heart have needs and shoulds?
Does it have needs and shoulds? I don't think it does. I think it kind of knows instinctively, and there's different types of people, and people make up their minds, as the saying goes, in different ways. But for some people, they call it a sacral response. So it's a gut instinct of, oh yeah, this is right for me. And almost the voice goes up. It's like, oh, and you say sounds like that. It's like, you're kind of excited about it, and that's an instinctive, like, oh, this is the right thing to do. But if it's more of a then actually that's a not sure, and if you're a sacral person, then that isn't, you shouldn't be making a decision based on that. So it's either a very clear yes because you're lit up by it, or if it's an uncertain, then it's probably don't make a decision at this stage. So that's one type of person where it's kind of a gut instinct. And then there's another type of person who are emotional. I think that's you and me, where we actually
Doesn't
shouldn't
sound
make a
like me,
decision.
Dom.
Where we shouldn't make a decision based on, getting really excited about something. Actually, we need to ride the emotional wave of, oh, this is really exciting, this is really good. But actually, last time I made a decision based on the emotion of it, actually, I then regretted it. So rather than make a decision now and potentially regret it, actually, I need to ride that wave, be really excited about it, but not actually make a decision at the stage and actually come out of it. Maybe there's a low point kind of going, oh no, that would have been really awful anyway. Ride the low and then come back to a neutral place, which we all get to anyway in life, a neutral place, and that's the best time to make the right decision where you're not emotionally sort of attached or repelled by whatever it is that you're trying to make a decision about.
Oh, yeah, that's so true. I think Dave's really struggled with that with me over the years, like because my emotional highs and lows are much smaller peaks and troughs than they used to be. But I used to, yeah, you're having a bad day and suddenly you want to be like, all this stuff I'm doing, I hate all of it. I'm not doing any of it anymore. And you just want to like give it all up because you're having a bad day because you're
Mm.
responding in the emotion. But actually, once you've kind of come out of it again and emotions come like waves, actually, no, that wouldn't have been the right decision to give it all up. And Dave has definitely kept me on the
Over
path going down a
for
certain
you.
road. But I don't think I've only recently starting to realize that emotional thing that you're talking about there, to not make decisions when I'm feeling emotional. Like I was really tired yesterday, not feeling, just feeling a bit run down. And everything feels like it could be very overwhelming when you feel like that. And so it's not a good place to make a decision. I
Mm.
would definitely have made a decision from that place in the past. And then yeah, obviously had to live with it. I'm not sure how much I feel regret. That is an interesting question, maybe for another day. But yeah, then just have to go back maybe on what you've decided to do, or realize that you just annoyed some people like Dave who wouldn't have quite reacted in such a way.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the same for you, right? So how do you handle that?
Yeah, well, as I'm learning, as we all are at the moment, I made a decision last year, um, that was like a really big decision in my life, to kind of stay with the status quo. And when I made the decision, I felt sort of almost relief. But it was, now that I look back, it was a decision based on fear of staying safe rather than actually following my heart and doing the thing that actually I felt that was right. So, um, with some examples, so some of the biggest decisions and difficulties that people face in their lives are things that break tribal expectations. So tribal things are like your family going against the grain, maybe, oh, not going to university. What do you mean you're not going to university? Everyone's in our family goes to university. What do you mean you're not going to get a job? You're going to be self-employed. You're going to make your own money from property. What are you on about? You're breaking that expectation of family, community, maybe culture. Maybe you're marrying outside of your religion. Oh my goodness, you're gay. Holy shit. All of these things, those are massive tribal breaking decisions effectively that one possibly goes with because it is a heart-led thing that this is actually who you are and who you want to be, and that is the hardest thing to go against because of course in a tribe, if you're not part of the tribe, you're more likely to die. In the olden days, if we weren't part of a tribe and we couldn't work together, then you were an outcast and on your own, you get eaten by the lions. So it is a massive thing to break that tribal expectation, and particularly around family expectations of you. So yeah, so that's
Is
that's
that head then? Is tribal is head?
tribal is, well, it's actually more of a survival one, so it goes right down to the root chakra if we're going there, of fitting in, of survival. That is definitely so. Yeah, we've got energy centers. We've done a podcast on this before, but you've got the root chakra, which is very much about survival. You've got the sacral. You've got the solar plexus, which is just below the heart, around the rib cage there. Those ones are all sort of this human and in this world, and then you've got the one upwards, which is the heart, and upwards towards your head, and that's kind of more spiritual ones. So the heart is kind of the midpoint, right, of the seven chakras that we've got, and that's why the heart is kind of the transition between the physical world and maybe the spiritual, energetic world. So going to the heart is where you balance it, and that's why actually it makes sense now. Making decisions based on your heart is going to be
Mm.
probably better for you than
I
than
guess the I guess my confusion and all of this is as like with the chakras becoming up towards your head, those are the more spiritual ones. But I feel like when we're talking about decisions with your head,
Mm,
we're not coming at it from that
that's true.
perspective.
Mm.
So I guess I mean I don't have the answer here. I'm just like trying to make sense of it in my own mind. Like, does the head not link into a lot of these more survival instincts where we're kind of rationalizing why we're doing things, but really it is survival?
Yeah, it's so um the head, as mentioned before, basically your brain will think forever, right? But in order to, it's kind of, it's not in human design, and I know we're going to do a podcast on the human design very soon, but it's not linked to a motor. It's not something. It's linked to something that is actually going to get stuff done. That's why on its own it won't cause things to happen. That's why lots of people, they're really intellectual, they're unbelievably intelligent, and yet they've got no business, and they can't seem to make any money. And it's because thoughts alone is not enough. We have to have it linked to something, an energy center, which is one of the lower chakras, effectively, which allows us to bring it into physical reality, and make that money and make that business and make that relationship or whatever it might be. So that's why the head on its own is not the right thing to make decisions. It's more about the heart, I think, and also bring it to fruition through the throat. So you're speaking it into existence, and that's how we create things. We talk and we make things happen through our communication. Anyway, we're kind of
Mm.
digressing all over the place here,
No,
but
no, no, no. That's like
it's
that's part of the
interesting.
joy, right? We can talk about whatever we want, and you guys can listen or not listen. It's totally up to you. I think it's brilliant. And so for me, then, where does the head thoughts come from? And like, what is the head? If we're then saying the head versus the heart,
Mm.
what is the head?
Okay, so I mean, this is
No,
just
I'm not
my
expecting you to have all the
understanding.
answers, Dom. Just tell me your thoughts.
My thoughts are that the thoughts are electrical impulses, in the brain shooting between neurons which are connected, and the brain is there to make sense of the world. It can help in making decisions, but it's not going to be the best decisions, I think. He says, I think.
And those neurons are going to be from all of your past experiences, which
Exactly
is
that.
your past, which therefore coming back to this whole tribal thing. I mean, this is
Mm.
Jackie just trying to like make sense of it in my own mind. Like the tribe and how we make sense of things, that is where we've come from. That's how we've made sense of the world. We've formed ourselves around that. So therefore, that is the thoughts in the brain. So therefore, is that not the head?
Yes, that's right. It's keeping us safe, it's keeping us alive, it's about linked to survival.
Mm,
You're right, those
mm.
thoughts are all effectively old memories that you're reliving, that you're using to make sense of the world. And yeah, so actually that's a really good insight right there.
Thank you very
Your
much. That's
thoughts.
why we do this.
Yeah, thoughts are all memories.
Ooh.
So actually, if you want guidance for the future, possibly following your heart. So there's a wonderful book. It's a whole institute now called the Heart Math Solution, and they've got three kind of methods, exercises that you can do, which allow you to tap into the wisdom of your heart. You see, your heart has neurons, just like your brain does, so brain cells in your heart, and your heart has far more pathways, neural pathways going up from it to the brain than your brain does down to the heart. So your heart has huge influence over your brain versus the other way around. So if you want, so for example, stress, for example, if you're measuring it as brain impulses, it's very erratic. It's all over the place. It's not a coherent thought pattern. It's not a coherent energy. But people who are peaceful, people who are in a good state, who make better decisions, who know themselves, they trust themselves, they have something called coherence, which is when your heart and your brain are nicely linked, and you've got HRV, which is heart rate variability, is low, and so therefore it's consistent. So this math solution, just as a quick example, they have something called the freeze frame, which is when in a moment of, stress, high stress, you just stop for a moment, you close your eyes, and just focus your energy on your heart for a minute and ask yourself to remember a happy time, a time that was really, yeah, pleasurable, that you enjoyed, that you felt loved, at peace, and go there and visualize it and feel what it was like to be there again. And in that moment, you're then shifting your attention from the sort of the chaos of thinking to a state of peace and love and joy in your heart. And then from that moment, you can then ask your heart, okay, what can I do? What do I need? What do I need to see differently? You ask yourself a question, you ask the heart a question. And by doing that, you might get an answer. Something pops into your mind, or you might not, or you might just feel a bit more at peace as a result. So there's so much wisdom in our heart if we go there and look for it. And I know you're brilliant at this, because when you do guided meditations, like you did this morning for our DMA group, it's just glorious to focus in on the heart and feel that love that we all have within us that we deny, that the brain sort of gets caught up in itself and denies.
Well, the brain, like I think I see more and more in myself that when my brain's really going a lot, and like when I'm trying to like calm myself down and like center myself, focus more on my heart, sometimes it's really hard to do this. And the brain keeps wanting to distract me. And in the past, I would get a bit annoyed about this. I've stopped getting annoyed about it because I started to realize that actually, when the brain is going more and more, that is when there's actually I'm like about to hit on something that's actually gold underneath it. It's like it's trying to distract me from the true insight that's underneath, because the true insight underneath continues with each passing insight to remove my need for the thoughts. Like, so it's basically my thoughts become of less and less importance to me.
Ah.
I'm wanting to listen to more to my heart. So therefore, if I'm in a moment where my heart is about to maybe have a breakthrough, the thoughts will be there more. And so in a
Mm.
way, this helps me to sit and just be like, this doesn't mean that I should get up and send that email, respond to that thing on Facebook, or whatever it is that my brain is trying to tell me. This is actually the moment that I have got to just trust and find the stillness and sit through it, because actually it's when I find the biggest personal breakthroughs is when the brain really wants to go, it's the biggest emotional breakthrough underneath.
Yes, that is absolutely amazing. Really spot on. And it makes me think of an ancient Chinese quote that I'm making up that goes something like that goes something like, the ego mind will shout its loudest just before it's kind of that part of it is dying, before a massive insight is going to come in emotionally. So yeah, that's the thing. You're most stressed and sort of chaotic and loads of thoughts going on just before a really good insight is coming through, because part of the ego mind is effectively dying and it doesn't want
No,
to.
don't look at this thing underneath because you won't need me so much anymore.
There we go.
And it's like, I was having a chat with Dave this morning because we're like recording lots of podcasts at the moment, and I was saying, I wanted some inspiration for what we want to cover on the next podcasts, and you can sit down and try to think what you want to cover, or I can just go and sit down quietly, calm my mind, stop thinking about anything, and suddenly I've got like 10 things that I want to talk about, which you just couldn't think your way through if you were trying, but suddenly you stop trying, and there's just loads of it's just all sitting there. We just block ourselves from accessing it.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that, and this is another thing that I see happening over the last few years. I mean, maybe we're in a bit of a bubble because we're open to this sort of stuff, but actually there's so much more wisdom in our bodies, and coming from nature and being in nature and slowing down and not doing the whole time, but actually just being. When you can sit down quietly and not have to think about anything, but just allow thoughts to pass, that's when the best inspiration comes in. People don't get their best ideas when they're thinking at their desk. They get their best ideas when they're out in nature going for a walk, enjoying the sunshine, doing exercise in the shower, in the bath. It's when you're relaxed. So actually
Mm.
deliberately making time for that, I think is essential. Making time and tuning in on a regular basis, training yourself to tune in, meditate, and practice getting wisdom from your heart, I think is an amazing thing to do.
And so, how do you think then? Like, what is the place for the head over the heart? How do you think the best way? Because obviously we need both of them.
Absolutely.
Do you have any thoughts about how to get that balance?
So there's, yin and yang, up and down, left and right. There's we can't have one thing without the other. I think we can't have the wisdom of the heart effectively without the thinking brain that kind of almost helps us understand it, put it into words, and put it into action. So both are absolutely essential. We can't rely on just one thing. I know some people might argue that actually just their presence is, the presence of these people is just incredible. It's true. Like, so you think of Eckhart Tolle or Amma or some of these spiritual leaders, just them being there has the biggest impact on others, and they don't have to do anything. They're just it's who they're being. Um, but I always argue, but yeah, but they still got to like travel to places and they still got to do things.
That's true. You got to do logistics. What plane am I going to get on? How am I going to use those air miles?
There we go. Exactly. So it's just kind of being present and knowing that both are absolutely essential, and it's two sides of the same coin. So not to dismiss one over the other. It's just like the ego mind chatting away. We need an ego. We need that desire, just like um Mother Teresa. She was living the things she wanted to do. She wanted to help other people. She wanted to sacrifice luxuries that she could have if she wanted to, and instead focus on her service to her religion. So we all need an ego, and it's not seeing it as a bad thing, but knowing that it's a lousy master, but it's an excellent
Mm.
servant. So seeing the heart as the
Mm.
master and the mind as the servant, hence servant leadership, as I think she famously created that term, possibly. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, both are needed.
And what do you think about so bringing this back to like business and investing in property? What do you think the role of the heart versus the head is there?
Mm. A lot of people get into property because they want to intellectually, I want to make money, um, to have more freedom. I think if you can follow your heart and go, what am I here on this planet for, and kind of go into why you're here, and then leverage property as the vehicle for making that money and for living that life and providing that service, just like we're doing, with our mentoring, we're absolutely passionate about helping other people succeed because in them creating amazing homes, we're helping the country to provide more housing effectively. It's creating a greater good, by us focusing on helping others and using property as the vehicle to do that. So I think for people who are in property, do some soul searching, use that heart, practice going to your heart and asking questions to get clarity on which part of property is going to be right for you. Because it might be around social housing, or it might be around whatever it might be, converting old derelict houses into nice new ones because we've got a housing shortage. It's something with purpose that is beyond your own needs, is something that I would say is probably the right reason to do it rather than just for money or just for freedom.
And do
What
you
about
think it's
you?
possible to access that wisdom when you're not in a place of in a good place yourself? Because a lot of people come
Mm,
into property almost slightly desperate to make money quickly. They're not, haven't got enough money to be covering their monthly overheads. I think it's quite hard from that place to choose a genuine service to others. Have you got any wisdom around that?
mm. Yeah, I think you can't help the poor by being one of them. It's important that you do make some level of income first before you try to get into property because it's not a get rich quick. In fact, it's very very much a slow way of making money. It's much quicker to just find a job and get paid for that
It's so true,
initially.
actually. You'll get paid in 30 days.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas property could take a year or something for you get any return on investment. So yeah, so I wouldn't do property to to make money to get out of the situation. Having said that, it could be the right vehicle for you to learn about yourself in order to get that clarity of mind, to know what is right for you. So it goes back to that idea of actually you're in exactly the right place, even if you're in a difficult situation at the moment. Know that that's just the mind chatter, and
Mm.
you can get back to that sense of peace by going to your heart to help you get clarity and make better decisions.
Making me think about the this kind of like pushing versus allowing, thinking about the
Mm,
head and the heart. And I've not quite thought about it through this lens before, but just I feel when you kind of make decisions about what you want to do and then you push towards them, that's kind of like a very much a head thing. This is what I should be should be doing, need to be doing. I'm going to do it and I'm going to push. It's it doesn't come from a good place. Whereas actually if you're coming not potentially for coming from more of heart decisions is there's more softness and more
yes,
allowing, which I
yes.
don't think we necessarily know very well how to do in our culture. It is like a hard work push. It should be tough kind of mentality. But actually, I think if you come back to your heart and this kind of more trust of yourself and the situation and trying to enjoy that journey no matter where you're at, I think that that does give you much more access to the flow and to the allowing. And I
Yes.
think, yeah, I'm definitely seeing that. Obviously, most of my time in property, I've been purely from the head. It's only really the heart has come in much more recent years. But like
Mm,
when you're pushing from the head, you're doing it all because you think that's what you should do and what you need to do and all of that. And it's actually exhausting because you're not in alignment with
mm,
how you doesn't mean you're doing the wrong thing necessarily, but maybe how you're going about doing it, that just volition changes so
yes.
that you can do the same things but from a much softer, more enjoying, relaxed kind of way, which the old me would interpret as being lazy and not working hard enough, but that's just a load of crap.
Yeah.
It's just like enjoying it and allowing it. And it all happens so much more easily. And I think then, obviously, we've just designed this holiday every 6 weeks lifestyle, which is awesome. But also, it's been like an actual a need at various times in the past building in property because I've made it so hard from been so from my head and pushing that way that it's actually exhausting. And actually, the more I drop down to come at decisions from a heart place and to just allow and enjoy, which
Mm,
I do accept is easier to do from the financial position that I'm in now compared to where I was 10 years ago.
yes.
But it just, you the holidays are really shifting for me at the moment and what that really looks like because
Mm,
it's not I'm not getting there so fucking whacked like I was before. I'm
right.
actually getting there from a much softer place and it means that you can do a lot more as well. Like I'm got so much more going on than ever before, but I couldn't have done it before. I would have burnt out, I would have got
Right.
ill,
Yeah.
like I would have blocked it because it was
Yes.
all being done from how I should be doing it according to what my mind told me.
Yeah. So what you're saying is actually as a result of following your heart and doing things that feel right, you've actually got a new untapped source of energy within you
Mm.
that you didn't have before. And actually before you did the holiday every 6 weeks because you needed a break from all the pushing of creating the business, which of course, most people still aiming for because they want to get, get away from,
Mm.
want to automate the business so they don't have to do anything. Actually, if you love what you're doing every day and it's heart led, actually you've got way more energy. And it's true that the people who inspire us the most, they tend to have loads of energy because they love what they're doing.
Mm.
They love who they're being. They love what they're becoming.
But I
Um,
think we stop ourselves from enjoying it, right? Like I think we all think I'll build this thing, I'll get this cash flow, and then I'll find what I enjoy. And you can enjoy the thing that you're doing. And actually, I think that we've just got it all the totally the wrong way around. The head's got it all the totally the wrong way around. Just like enjoying how you're doing stuff, like your heart wants to have a nice time. It
yes,
wants to like flow and
yes,
love people and have joy and all of that as it goes along.
yes.
And the head wants us. Does the head want us to be miserable? I think maybe it does.
Oh,
It
I
wants
think
it to be hard.
the old programming is about survival, and therefore it's about
Yeah.
keeping safe, and therefore anything that's a threat, like not having enough money, for example, where we, could eventually ultimately die. That's why the head is. So it's that old programming effectively of survival. And that's why
And
it
it's
wants to keep us.
never going to be joyful, right? When you're coming from a place of survival, it's always going to feel hard and like you're having to run away from stuff.
Yes. Yes, exactly. And we're
Mm.
very fortunate effectively now living certainly in this country, we've got relative peace. And even if you were to do absolutely nothing, eventually the ambulance will pick you up and take you to a, mental institution, but you'd still be fed and you'd still have clothes and be, kept safe and warm. So even if you were to stop doing everything, you're still pretty safe. So actually all this fear is really just in our minds, and it's that old programming that we need to let go of, and maybe start focusing on who do we need to become, who, what's my purpose on this planet, how can I help others best. Yeah.
I'm reading a really good book at the moment. I can't remember the exact title. It's like seeing what was always there or something like that. And it's about this whole idea that we habituate to
Mm.
situations. And it's true. Everything you said there is totally true. We do live in a great country that has access to so many great things, but you wouldn't bloody think it, would you, when you like talk to people and read the newspaper? Because we've just habituated to how it is, and it's human progress, like always wanting more and to strive for more. And I guess that is kind of the brain, I guess, is what is the one that habituates to a situation and becomes used to it. New neural pathways set up, and you become used to it. So then you have to change your thermostat to a new
Yes.
level to experience that next level of
Mm.
joy or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's probably something to be said for that in terms of your mind will always want you to have more than you have, because it will
Exactly.
get used to what you have, so it will convince you that you need more, and therefore you can't truly be fulfilled and happy until that point. But that is it, just trying to distract you from the fact that what you said before is totally true. Like, look how much you have, how grateful we can be for everything that is already there,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
and therefore
Yeah.
make the whole journey much more fun and enjoyable,
Enjoyable.
which is the whole thing we're
Exactly.
banging on about the whole time, right? Just
There
have a
we
good
go.
time.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. One of the things I learned from the Kabbalah actually, which was, as humans, we have the most desire. That is kind of our biggest and most creative and important sort of spiritual energy is desire. We want more. And that's because consciousness wants to experience itself through us, and it does that by giving us desire. A rock on its own is has no desire, right? A plant has the desire to grow and to flower and to reproduce, etc. Animals have the desire to all that and move around, and procreate and crossbreed and everything else. And then humans have the most desire. We're going to the moon, we're going to Mars, we're going to all sorts of places. So it is an built-in mechanism of wanting more, and it's only natural to effectively want more because that's how the world experiences itself through us.
Mm.
So yeah, that's useful insight, I thought.
So, what's your main conclusion, Dom, from head versus heart? Key
My main
takeaway.
conclusion would be, and I'm still learning this, and I think early days in comparison to where I look forward to being in a few years, but following my heart far more often, understanding how I personally make my best decisions, which we're going to discuss more on another podcast around human design. Because ultimately, you're ultimately always making decisions in every moment. And so, if you understand how you can make your best decisions based on who you are, then you're going to live a much happier and better life. So, I'd say, yeah, practice focusing on your heart and learn more about your emotions so that you can master that too. And you'll live a much happier, easier, less stressful life. How about you?
I think it's for me just reconnecting with that emotional point, actually, where we just being aware of how emotions for me can interfere with my ability to access what is heart-led wisdom and gets my brain involved. Because it's funny, because you kind of think emotions are kind of your heart, but I actually think emotions really affect your thoughts. I actually
Mm.
potentially think maybe even more than your heart. So just being aware of, particularly when I'm feeling a bit one way or the other emotionally, yeah, just that's probably not wisdom at that moment. I think for me, access to the heart-led wisdom comes in the peace and the quiet and the stillness, and there's not a lot of thoughts going on, and suddenly the insight presents itself. So it's just for me, further reinforcing why it's so important to go on holiday. That's my main takeaway. Give me that sun lounger. And there we go, another episode of the Property Lifestyle Mastery Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. If you are enjoying the show, we would really appreciate a review. If you could just take 30 seconds to click us a star rating and share a few words, we would love to hear your experience. So this time next week, we'll be back again. And this time, from the heart versus the head, we're dropping down into the gut and finding that balance between researching, listening and doing. Who should you actually listen to when you're making decisions and cutting through the noise? So Dom and Dave, this time next week. Until then, have a great week ahead. Loads of love.